Hey.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome back, Misfits, and welcome back to a new episode. Today, we're doing the last episode of the She Is series.
She is.
Yes, she
sure
is. She is. And I hope you've enjoyed this series. We've kind of just been talking about women, really.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great.
So we hope that you enjoyed it. Today, particularly, we're talking about 3 women that you may not know that much about, that we learned some stuff about as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a judge, a prophetess, and a queen.
Yeah. Bet you didn't know all that was in the Bible. I'm sure some of y'all did. But we are just excited to learn about all these different women in the Bible and just awesome impact that they had.
Because sometimes they didn't have names.
Yeah.
Sometimes they lived, they died, and we just didn't. It was somebody's wife and they died. And it's like, wait, are you not going to tell me she lived for 305 years? I need to know.
We have no idea if she was 20 or 200, you know?
Yeah. I was reading, this is besides the point, but I was reading Genesis, and it just occurred to me that when they were saying, it was talking about Noah and his wife and his daughters-in-law, it was just like, hello?
Yeah, that was it.
Hello?
He had 3 sons and they were married. Okay, so
what was their names? Yeah. Where was they from? Was they short? Was they tall? Nothing? Okay.
A little something.
So today we're changing the narrative.
Yeah,
we're changing the narrative.
We're shining the light.
Definitely. So we often think that in the olden times, right, the biblical times, women didn't do anything, or they did do something and it was just be a wife and a mother.
Right. Because there are a lot of stories like that.
Right. And that's true.
Yeah.
But, however, there is a lot of that because that's part of what women do. However, there are so many things women did throughout the Bible that may surprise you.
Right.
We've already talked about some of these women in our episodes 12 and 13. And we'd like to remind you of some, but also share some other things women did.
Right. Yeah.
So, in episode 12 called Girl Power, we talked about awesome, strong women of the Bible who have amazing stories. And in episode 13 called The Bad Girls Club, we talked about some women who weren't necessarily the best, but their stories still teach us something.
Yes.
Definitely.
They're still impactful.
So for this episode, we're going to talk about some more awesome women in the Bible. So for the first woman we're going to talk about, her name is Deborah. And she is the only female judge that Israel had, and they had 12 judges in total.
Right.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So now we must mention that she was also a prophetess, but for the purpose of this episode, we're only going to talk about her as a judge. I don't want anybody going in the Bible and being like, Fran, she was a judge and a prophetess, because I know that.
We know.
We did our research.
We want to highlight her judge
But
part.
we're going to highlight her judgeness, not her prophetessness.
Not judginess.
Exactly.
Judgeness.
Her judgeness. So the story of Deborah takes place in Judges chapter 4 and 5. When we meet Deborah, the Bible tells us that she's talking to Barak, and Barak is her general, and she's giving him a message from God. The message was to take 10,000 warriors with him and go to fight Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army. Barak says, yeah, sure, I'll go, but you have to come with me. So she says, okay, I'll go with you, but you won't get any credit for this victory. The credit is going to go to a woman.
Yeah, you want to take me, it's going to go to a woman.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is so interesting, right? Because he's a commander of the army, and she was like, yeah, go do this. God said to go do this. And he's like, I mean, yeah, but are you going to come? Or do I have to go by myself?
Yeah.
I think that's so funny.
It's kind of odd.
Yeah, I don't know the context, but it's just funny. So
maybe she knew somebody.
What?
I'm sure there was more to it, but
there is, and you can go read it for yourself.
Read it.
So they go to battle and they win, but Sisera, the commander of the army they were fighting, escapes. He runs to hide in a woman's tent, and then, just long story short, that woman ends up killing him, right? Which we would love to go into, but that's not the story of Deborah.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. So he ends up dying anyway. So that's basically what happens in Judges chapter 4. They win the battle, and then the guy escapes, and he gets killed anyway. Basically, they win the battle. That's chapter 4. In Judges chapter 5, Deborah and Barak sing a song of victory where she calls herself a mother for Israel, and then Israel has peace for 40 years. Yes, after this battle. So Deborah was awesome, and we had to mention her because among 12 men, she was the only woman chosen by God to be judge over Israel when they needed a leader. And we've talked about this before, but basically the judges were, when the Israelites, they wanted to be like the other nations, and they're like, God, we want a king. And God was like, yo, I'm your king. But okay, you want a king? So he made judges, and then Deborah was one of those judges.
Right.
Yes. So the next woman we're going to talk about is a prophetess Now, there are several prophetess mentioned in the Bible, but today we're going to talk about Huldah. Why we're going to talk about Huldah? Her name is cool.
Yes.
And number 2, none of us have ever heard of her.
No, it's very like a small part in the Bible where her name is mentioned.
Yes.
So we wanted
Which is important.
Yeah,
right?
no.
That's pretty impressive in the first place. Her name is mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes. So we just wanted to talk about her.
Yeah.
So now Huldah, who you probably, like I said, have never heard of, is a prophetess mentioned in the books of 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. In both instances, we see her sharing a message from the Lord. She is a key element in this story because as they are renovating King Solomon's temple, when they're rebuilding, they find a scroll, which we later find out is the law of Moses. They go to Huldah to seek the Lord and what he has to say because they had not been obeying everything in the law at that time. So she is the prophetess that delivers the message from God. Because of this message that she gives to the king, which is actually a message of God's mercy, and you can read that for yourself because it's actually great. King Josiah decides to renew the covenant with God and commits to follow the law again. So her impact was huge. Because she was able to deliver the message from God, Israel was once again in alignment with God and God's law.
Yeah, and if you remember, Israel just has a hard time kind of staying under the law and obeying.
Yes.
So this was a time when they had
episode something where we talked about the Israelites.
500 episodes.
Yes.
But yeah, this just kind of reiterates that, and just again, they had strayed away, and this moment was an opportunity that God spoke through her.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, you need to get right with me again.
Yeah, it was great.
And they did, which was awesome.
Yeah, like she was obedient to do what God, to deliver the message. And then because she delivered the message, then Israel was again going to follow the law of Moses and be in right standing with God. So that's awesome. Pivotal. Right. Huldah, we love you.
She's great.
She's awesome.
10 out of 10.
Yes. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend as a BFF.
Yes. Get her as your prophetess. Okay, so the last awesome lady that we're going to talk about is a literal queen.
Yes, she is.
And we love her. And her name is Queen Esther. Now, this queen has her own book in the Bible. So if you want to read her story, how she became queen and all of that, you can read it in the book of Esther.
Not only is her name in the Bible, she has her own book.
She has her own book.
Which we would love for a lot of other women to have their own book. But, Esther's is great.
We're
yes,
grateful.
We are grateful.
Yeah. So Esther's a queen, but we'll take it back to the way that she becomes a queen. And that is because King Xerxes, his wife, made him mad, basically. He was having a banquet and he wants to show off his wife. He calls for her and she refuses to come, and that just pisses him off. He's like, nah, I'm going to banish you.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you do that to me in front of my friends.
Come on, yeah.
My queen. And so he's mad. He's like, I don't want you anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a new one.
Yeah.
But it says that the Bible does say that he banished her. So we're happy that he didn't kill her.
Yeah.
He was just like, be gone. Yeah, be gone.
Never want to see your face around.
Exactly.
Basically. So because of that, he's in search for a new wife, and so they actually do a search for a new wife, right? It wasn't just let me just pick one out of the crowd. It was he did this whole thing.
Yeah.
And so they bring actually a bunch of beautiful women to his palace, and among them is Esther. And he thought, he saw her and he's like, she's the most beautiful. And so he decides to marry her and makes her queen, which is great. But that's not the awesome part. That's great for her and for him and the whole thing.
Yes. And mind you, this is a very concise
retelling
of the story. The story is actually very long as to how she gets chosen is actually very interesting.
Yes, but and it's a little nerve-wracking. You're a little anxious for her.
Yes, it just sounds like a pageant.
Yes,
but anyway, please read it for yourself. But it's just it's very concise.
But this is the abbreviated version. Okay, Cliff Notes.
Yes.
So again, that's not the best part about this whole story. So what happens is there's actually this guy named Haman, and he was basically very power hungry. And King Xerxes gave him some power. And so, of course, Haman is very full of himself and wanted people to bow to him because now he had this little bit of power.
Yes.
And he just thought he was better than everybody. And so Mordecai, who is actually Esther's cousin, I don't know if he's the only one, but it's the one that the Bible points out. And he says he refuses to bow down to him.
Right.
I'm not going to bow down to you.
Yes.
And so, of course, this Haman guy gets offended because he's like, you're supposed to bow to me. And so he uses that influence, his position, to tell the king that he should kill him. And not just him, kill all the Jews. Because, I don't know if we mentioned it, but Esther and Mordecai they're Jewish.
Right. Hence, they follow Yahweh, and that's why they didn't want to bow down to Haman. They're like, we're just only going to bow down to God.
Yes. So this Haman guy is like, no, kill him. Better yet, kill all the Jews.
Yeah.
And for some reason, King Xerxes agrees. He's like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
That sounds like a great idea. Sign it. Sign the form. Yeah.
So he agrees. He tells him that's fine. So Mordecai calls up his cousin Esther. Ring, ring. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure there was like a letter.
Her a text.
Yells at her balcony or whatever. Like, hey.
Throws rocks out her window.
Yeah. Just try to get her attention. And tells her what's going on and asks her, like, please help. He asks her, like, you're the queen now. Like, be a representative for our people, right? Like, help us out.
Right. Which is crazy because if he had to tell her, although she lives in the castle, she didn't know. Yeah. Like, he had to tell her because she's excluded from all that stuff.
She she's not in those important meetings and knows all those details.
She was busy and she literally did not find out. So if he hadn't told her, we wouldn't know.
And she wasn't, because Jewish people weren't very wanted there, she wasn't, she didn't tell the king that she was. And so, which is one of the reasons why he was just like, yeah, okay, do it. But of course, that was one of her reservations. Like, she wouldn't, like, she didn't know about all that. Otherwise, she probably would have been alarmed as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, her cousin comes, tells her, like, hey, like, can you do something? Talk to them. Use your influence as the queen. So, of course, she's hesitant because at the time, of course, women didn't get involved in that stuff. She wasn't part of that, decision making and kind of influencing that kind of stuff. And going to talk to the king without him having called her was like against the rules. Like, you didn't do that. You only went to the king, even as the wife, and even as the queen.
When he called for you.
Yeah, only when he called.
Which is why the other wife got banished, because he called for her
and she
was like, nah, exactly. And something that had just occurred to me is that we don't know how long they had been married.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say.
Maybe they were married for 17 days and Mordecai's like, yo, go talk to your husband and tell him this. And she's like, no.
Like, I've seen him twice.
Yeah, he's busy. No, I've seen him for half an afternoon after the wedding. I can't.
Yeah, like, it's too new. I'm still redecorating.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, so she's hesitant again because she's like, I don't want to get in trouble or for him to get mad at me. I mean, to the point where, like, he can have her killed because, like, I didn't call you in here. You're disobeying me.
You're banished with my other one.
Yeah, like, go over there and, again, he could have killed her just like he didn't kill the other one, but he could have. But anyway, Mordecai gives her a great pep talk. He's like, you can do it. We're going to read this portion of what Mordecai says to her. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just a time as this. So he's really like letting her know you're in a great position to be able to do something. Like, maybe there is a reason you were made queen, like above all the other women.
Right.
So use that influence. So now she's like, okay, I understand, like, just that I can do something. So she plans a dinner and asks the king and Haman to come to the dinner. And at the dinner, she asks him to not kill the Jews. She asks the king. And basically, it's just them. It's just the king, Haman, and Esther at this dinner. And so at the dinner, when Esther asked the king to spare her life and the lives of her people, and the king was like, who is literally brave enough to touch you? And so then Esther brings up, well, Haman.
Yeah,
is
I see it very dramatically in my head, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Who is brave enough to touch you? And then Haman is either on her left or on her right, and she just faces him, like, just snaps her neck, like, Haman.
Like this guy. Yeah, like with the big eyes, like looking over. And so now, of course, the king is livid that Haman would even try and kill his queen, try to do something like this. So basically, long story short, the king actually reverses it and has Haman killed.
Right.
So this story is just awesome because Esther really didn't have to do this. This was a very, she was putting her life on the line, basically. She could have just let everyone die, maybe even in a sense trying to save herself, had, the king not known about her. But she chose to put her life on the line and save the lives of all her people, her cousin, herself, so they wouldn't be killed. It was just a very unique position that she had. And I think it's a great example just, for us as well. Like, there are things that we can do that sometimes we think we can't. Mm-hmm. And so she just was in a position where she's like, I can take this one step and it's going to impact so many people.
Yeah.
And she, went against maybe the fear that she had and knew, like, I have to do this for a greater cause.
Yeah. which is great. And then another thing that I was thinking about was that Mordecai, although he is her cousin, I think the Bible tells us that he raised her. So he was more like a father figure and like giving advice to his daughter. Like, hey, I understand that you don't want to do this because you're scared, but I think this is why you're here, right? Yeah. So that's awesome.
Letting her see like the bigger
that he's
picture.
A godly man, and that he didn't want to bow down to Haman because he's a follower of God, and then he influences her to do this, and then they're all saved. Which it's just a great story.
So it's also Mordecai is not like, it's not just that I don't want to die,
right?
Like he's threatening to kill all of us, and so now it's a bigger problem. Like it could have been just like beef between me and Haman, and he could have dealt with that, but the fact that he now was like threatening a whole people was like, that's not okay. And you as the queen have this great
power to do something.
Opportunity and power to take a step and represent us. And fight for their lives, basically.
Which is great. She was representing a whole nation. Without even because that's obviously wasn't her intention. So that's awesome. So we hoped you learned something about Deborah, Huldah, and Esther. And hopefully one of these women maybe you didn't know anything about, and now you know something. And you probably didn't know Huldah. I'm just gonna call it. You probably didn't know Huldah because I didn't know Huldah.
We're gonna say 9 out of 10 of you did not.
So we hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something. We hope you enjoyed the series in general. If you'd like us to do something similar to this again, please let us know. If you want us to talk about more women in the Bible,
we are happy to.
We are happy to do so. And we'll be back next week with our new series. And as always, this is Fran.
This is Yadi.
We are the Midtown Misfits, and we will see you next week. Bye.